Many people say that Roth accounts are always better than pre-tax accounts, but what is actually best for you? Hi, I'm Ava Pompey, financial planning analyst with Prosperity Wealth Planning, and welcome back to our financial education series. In today's video, we're breaking down how to think about Roth versus traditional contributions during your working years, so that you can keep more of what you earn over your lifetime. So here's the big idea. You generally want to contribute to a pre-tax account when your tax rate today is higher than what you expect it to be in the future. And you want to favor Roth accounts when your tax rate today is lower than what you expect later. This isn't just about tax brackets changing on paper, but what really matters is what your actual taxable income will look like at different stages of your life. During your working years, most of your income is taxed as ordinary income, and you're usually in your peak earning years. So you're paying full federal and state tax rates on a higher level of income. While in retirement, that can look very different. Maybe your mortgage is completely paid off, or the kids are out of the house. You simply do not need as much income to maintain the same lifestyle, which often means you have a lower effective tax rate. So instead of thinking Roth versus traditional, it can be helpful to think Roth and traditional. Having a mix of both pre-tax, Roth, and even taxable accounts can give you more flexibility later to decide where your retirement paycheck can come from and how much tax you'll owe each year. So in retirement, you have much more control over how you create the income that you need. You can choose which accounts to pull from in which years and structure your withdrawal to stay within certain tax brackets or avoid pushing things like Social Security into taxation. This flexibility is only possible if you've been intentional during your working years about which tax buckets you're filling along the way. So let's walk through a quick case study to see how this plays out in real life. So here we are reviewing a sample client's financial plan. His name is John. He has several different account types. He has a brokerage account, a 401k, and also an IRA. And he's wondering where he should be saving during his final working years and what strategies he should focus on once he actually does retire. So the first thing we need to understand is his tax bracket today and what his projected income can look like later. This visual is showing John's federal income tax bracket over time. So you can see here in his final working years, he's in a relatively high tax bracket. It's at a 24% until he retires at age 64, and it drops down to lower income. But at the same time, he's already built up a very meaningful balance in his pre-tax retirement accounts, which means that his future required minimum distributions, also known as RMDs, will eventually push his income into even higher tax brackets if he does nothing. Because John is in a higher tax bracket right now, it makes sense for him to focus on pre-tax contributions during these final working years to capture those upfront savings. For example, each dollar that John contributes pre-tax would save him 24 cents in taxes today, and later in retirement, some of those draws would be taxed at the 12% bracket because his overall income needs are lower. That difference between the tax rate when the deduction happens and the tax rate when the withdrawal happens is where the real long-term savings can show up. So you can see this valley here when John actually retires and steps into those lower income years. That's where tax planning becomes crucial. Early in retirement, before those RMDs kick in, he may have several years where his taxable income sits in these lower tax brackets. Those are the years where it can make sense to blend strategies, continuing to use pre-tax money he already has, but also deliberately using those lower tax brackets. This is a very similar visual, but it's showing John taking advantage of a tax strategy. So one way to use those lower income years is by pulling income forward, moving just enough from pre-tax accounts into Roth accounts to intentionally fill up the lower tax brackets. That is done through Roth conversions, typically in early retirement, not by changing how he contributes while working. And in John's case, the main decision during his final working years is to prioritize pre-tax contributions while his marginal rate is high knowing that later he may convert positions into Roth when his rate is temporarily lower in early retirement. So, how do you apply this to your own situation? If you're in a relatively low tax bracket now and expect higher income or higher tax rates later, leaning towards Roth contributions can make sense because you're paying tax on those dollars at a lower rate today. And if you're in your peak earning years and expect lower income in retirement, pre-tax contributions often provide more value because you're getting the deduction at a high rate now and may withdraw at lower rates later. For many people, a blended approach over time works best. More Roth earlier in your career, more pre-tax in peak earning years, and then a strategic use of both as you approach retirement to build tax diversification. The goal is to not win the Roth versus traditional debate in general. It is to use each type account at the right time so that you have options later and can minimize your overall lifetime tax bill. Now, if you're not sure which mix is right for you, start by asking 3 questions. What tax bracket are you in today? What do you reasonably expect your retirement income to look like? And how balanced are your current savings between pre-tax, Roth, and taxable accounts? Once you know those answers, you can be much more intentional about where your next dollar of savings should go. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you at the next one. Performance is not indicative of future results. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Prosperity Wealth Planning, LLC, is a registered investment advisor located in Irvine, California. The firm may only transact business in states in which it is registered or qualifies for an exemption or exclusion from registration requirements. The information presented is for educational and illustrative purposes only and should not be construed as personalized investment, tax, legal, or estate planning advice, or as an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any security, investment, or investment strategy. Case studies, if presented, are purely hypothetical and do not represent actual clients or results, and should not be interpreted as testimonials or endorsements. Similar or favorable results are not guaranteed, and strategies discussed may not be suitable for all individuals due to each person's unique circumstances. Prosperity Wealth Planning does not provide tax or legal advice and is not a CPA or law firm. You should consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy discussed. Opinions expressed are as of the date of publication, subject to change without notice, and may differ due to market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass.